Right. All right. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
Great. Have a big trip coming up. We're recording this. Let me do that again. That's stupid. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
Good. We're recording this on a Tuesday. I have a trip starting Wednesday, tomorrow. Big secret trip that my wife does not know where we're going. It's a secret to her.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm taking my wife to see The War on Drugs on Friday, which she is reluctantly going to accompany me. So,
that seems like a lot of fun.
She's doing me a favor on that one. Yeah, but that should be a good show.
They actually were just in Houston last weekend, and I wasn't able to get to the show. I was thinking about it, but other things were going on, and we thought we were going to have family over and all that, so it didn't work out that way. So sad, but I'm sure you'll have a great time.
I am sure I will. It'll be a good show. I'm sure you will have a delightful trip as well.
Yes, I will. You know where I'm going.
I do, yes.
And some people in my life do, and you all know who know that it's going to be fun. So I will talk about it more in a few episodes. All right. This is the recap show for our 20th election of Hall of Songs, songs that were on the ballot from between 67 and 74, up for Hall of Songs induction. And we're about to talk about songs that are potentially in the Hall of Songs now. We have some results to give you. So a lot of fun, maybe the most interesting election we've ever had. We'll get to it. Let's get into it right now with Hall of Songs. Yeah. Welcome, music lovers, loyal listeners, to Hall of Songs, the podcast in which two men attempt to determine the greatest songs of all time. I am Tim Malcolm.
I'm Chris Jones.
Yeah, Chris, the Baseball Hall of Fame results were just announced today. And the reason I mentioned that is because our Hall of Songs has a very similar ballot election sort of structure as the Baseball Hall of Fame. And were you surprised by the results? General thoughts on what happened? Of course, David Ortiz, the only person to be elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame this year. Thoughts on that?
I can't say I was surprised, only because Tibbs does the running tally, and they're so accurate that you can usually tell what's going to happen several days before the vote's released. Although, he had Ortiz right on the edge and probably getting in. So very happy for David Ortiz. Unhappy about some of the rest of the omissions, we'll put it that way. But unlike the Baseball Hall of Fame, I think we encourage some drug use from our nominees quite frequently.
I mean, sometimes it makes the output better if you take drugs. Yeah, Ryan Thibodeau is the person who does the tracker, not Mr. Tibbs on Twitter. A fantastic job he does. And David Ortiz, I just want to say that I went to school in Boston while the Red Sox were battling the Yankees during that ALCS where Aaron Boone hit the Game 7 game-winning home run. And then the next year I was there as well when the Sox actually broke through, won 4 straight games to beat the Yankees, and then swept the Cardinals. I literally was standing outside of Fenway Park at the Sausage Guy cart during Game 4 when David Roberts stole second base to start that comeback against the Yankees. And I think Ortiz hit a game-winning single in that game, or a big single in that game.
Yeah, in the 14th.
And then in Game 5 he hit the home run to win the game. And again, I was outside of Fenway Park for that and got to hear, because it was in Fenway, got to hear the incredible sound of the crowd going nuts and see it from the windows outside Fenway into the park. David Ortiz, say what you will, I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. He will always hold a special place in my heart because I got to live through that Red Sox World Series victory in 2004, and he was the man. And yeah, I'm with you. Scott Rowland I would have had in. I think he'll get in probably next year. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, I would have voted in myself. Plenty others, but you know what? As you said, drugs, not welcome here, but welcome here in the Hall of Songs. All right, that is a prelude for what will be our election results for the 20th election here on Hall of Songs. As you know, we do this podcast where we go year by year from 1951 to our present day, which is now 1974, going into 1975, our next episode. We tell you about all the songs that we think are the best from the year that we talk about, and then we put those songs on a ballot. You go to hallofsongs.com and vote for the songs that you think should be in the Hall of Songs, which is our Hall of Fame for songs. After a week of voting, we then give you the results, which is what we're doing here. And if a song achieves 2/3 support or 66.67% support, it gets into the Hall of Songs. If a song does not achieve 35% support, it gets eliminated from the ballot completely. Much how in the Baseball Hall of Fame, if you don't get more than 5% support, you're out. Here it's 35. Any song that gets between 35 and 66.66% support gets to stay on the ballot for another round as long as it has not gotten 10 rounds of voting, and as long as it hasn't been on the ballot for 10 rounds. So that's how we do it here. And we've had 42 songs in the Hall of Songs up until now. Talk about our latest couple songs that got in, Chris. What were the last few?
Well, it's been a while. Nothing in the last one. I think before that was Al Green with Let's Stay Together. What did we have before that? I think we had 2 in the election before that.
We had Stairway to Heaven. Stairway to Heaven, and was that What's Going On? Was that year?
Stairway to Heaven and What's Going On, yep. And then right before that was the last time we had 3 with My Girl Sitting on the Dock of the Bay and Let It Be. So, yeah, good group. I mean, obviously they're all very worthy, exciting.
Yeah, and as you said last election, we didn't have any songs getting into the Hall of Songs, very much mirroring the actual Baseball Hall of Fame elections of last year when nobody got in and everybody cried. Just cried. I mean, it was terrible. I think it would have been nice to see somebody get in, but that didn't happen last year. But now we're coming back and hoping that some song gets in, at least one, maybe more. There were a couple really interesting stories heading into this election, one of them being the fact that nothing got in last time. And I wanted to get into that before we actually unveiled what our song was or songs were that got into the Hall. So we're in the 70s, and I talked about this a little bit in the last recap show. Popular theory or critical thought is that between 1965 and 1973, essentially, is when rock and roll pop music is at its absolute peak. Creativity is abundant, and the songwriting is fantastic. The studio work is masterful, and that's when the best songs come out. And then you hit 1974, and it just stops. To that point, our 42 nominees, starting from 1955 with Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and his Comets, all the way up until Let's Stay Together by Al Green, 1971. We have not had any nominees get in from 72, and we didn't get any nominees get in from 73 in our last election. So we've been without a good chunk of the 70s so far, and only, I think, 4 songs from the 70s have actually gotten into the Hall of Songs at this point. Let It Be, Let's Stay Together, Stairway to Heaven, and What's Going On. How do you feel about that dearth of early 70s material so far? And we talked about this in the last recap, as I said, but do you think it has anything to do with the fact that there is this critical, mind thought that music stops being good around 1973?
So I actually don't. I think we'll have to come back to this in about, 3 or 4 weeks after after we nominate 75 and see those votes, and maybe even after 76. I think there's kind of a weird confluence of things where there was, particularly in 74, but even in 73 and 72, things are starting to get a little bit more spread out, and maybe it's harder to find songs to coalesce around, but it's not necessarily because people think that they're lesser or anything like that. It's like maybe the people who are, gung-ho for Ain't No Sunshine, for example, are just different than the people who are gung-ho for Rocket Man, which is, to me, okay. And I think that maybe the idea was like, it may be a case that maybe in the 60s there was a little bit more of a consensus, which again I think is okay. But I'll be curious to see where it goes, because I think there's some songs coming up over the next 2-3 episodes that there may be that kind of consensus for. And if not, then I think I'll jump back and maybe say, yeah, it is just a case of the time period.
Yeah, I think you're right in that respect, that things have branched out so much. There's so much good music to be heard that maybe critical consensus around 1 or 2 songs doesn't seem to be present. if you look at one of my favorite websites in the world is weeklytop40.com. They do an amazing job of just chronicling all of the top 40 charts from the beginning of the Hot 100 up until present day. And it goes week by week. It's fantastic. If you look at like 1973, 1974, it seems like every week there is a new number one song on the charts. And we've talked about the early 70s and how a lot of different reasons are for why there are so many songs at the top of the chart and why music is splintered so much. You know, you have record producers and executives and label heads and things like that creating these genres and creating these formats, and radio spreading out and becoming more segregated. And as you said, the splintering of all these different genres is happening. A lot of it because of money, because, you know, you can make money in this segment if you market to this demographic particularly, and you're not trying to go for a broader audience. You're trying to be very, very narrow with your distribution or whatever. That is kind of moving why you get certain popular songs in the early 70s, and there's so many of them, right? And you don't have, as you said, in the mid 60s, you have those certain couple songs that are very obviously the best songs of the year. And you also have just the fact that there's a lot more studios, there's a lot more money, there's a lot more effort being put into making good recordings. Back in the 60s, and especially in the late 50s and early 60s, you had very few really good studios out there that were making high quality records. And so it was a lot easier to know this is the song that is actually the best because it sounds the best, because it's coming from that artist, because it's coming from that studio, and they have the best people. Whereas here in the early 70s, it's definitely more spread out because so many more people have the tools that are necessary to succeed. So that also factors into critical consensus and how rock writers are now really a big deal in the early 70s. And they get to write about all kinds of music. Rolling Stone magazine, Cream, any other kind of magazine or publication that's out there talking about music in the early 70s is talking about every single album that comes out, every single song that comes out. So there is definitely more knowledge being spread around what is popular, what is out there in music. And so I think, yeah, to your point, it's harder to get your arms wrapped around 1, 2, 3 songs from a specific year. It's more likely that you're going to hear 15 or 20 or 30 songs from that year, and those are going to sum up the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. It's there's less of a critical consensus, and coming along with that, there's less of a popular consensus, and I think we're seeing that here too. There's a lot more. You know, I think there were some in the 50s and 60s that I would have been shocked had they not gotten in, or at least shocked had they not been in the top 2 or 3 in the voting. And I'm now just a lot less shocked when I see the voting results because I guess I don't really know what to expect. But with that being said, which I think we're about to get into, this was to me the most shocking voting that we've had, not because of what was at the top, but because of what was at the bottom, and a lot of what was at the bottom. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, just to set up for this, our last election, our 19th election, I think 8 songs from 1973 were eliminated from the ballot, so 2/3 of the 1973 nominees were gone after one round, which is pretty unbelievable. Songs like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Rosalita by Bruce Springsteen, Living for the City by Stevie Wonder, these are songs that people know, and they got eliminated pretty quickly. I do think the voters are really, really loving the songs between 1970 and 1972. And there are a lot of really, really good songs in that period that, again, there's not one song that's rising above the others. And you're getting this muddled mass that it's making it harder for songs from 73 in the last election to get in. And I think we're going to talk about 74 and what happens here. It's a really interesting story to keep a watch of, because we're going to get into more elections where these songs are going to get older and older and older. Are they going to still be at the top of the ballot, blocking other things, newer things? We'll see what happens. The other story that we had going in, before we get into the actual voting, and we'll do that in a second, is that we had one song that was very, very, very old on the ballot from 1967, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman by Aretha Franklin. When that was initially put on the ballot, it got about 36% support. It was barely on the ballot after the first round, just stayed on. And it has been able to stay on through 6 more rounds. So it was in its 8th round total going into this one. So the 8th round of voting. And it actually was at the top of the charts last time at about 62%, not getting into the Hall of Songs, but really close. So I think we both felt like if there was a year for this song to get in, if there was a round of voting for this song to get in, it would be this 20th election. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. It's interesting to see how they sort of songs hang around. They bump up in popularity, go down. But I think we were both anxious to see how that one was going to do.
I would say it's like the Tim Raines of the Hall of Songs nominees. You know, I'm not going to say that because that makes me think of Jonah Carey, and I don't want to put him in the podcast.
Go with Burt Blyleven.
Okay. I think that makes that the Burt Blyleven of songs in the Hall of Songs nominee list. We'll see if Burt gets in. All right. Enough talking. Let's get to unveiling. So last time you voters decided that nothing was worthy of the Hall of Songs in our 19th election. Now it's time to unveil the results of our 20th election to see if finally you guys open your eyes and put at least one song into the Hall of Songs. I love you. I'm just kidding. Chris, did we get a song in the Hall of Songs?
We did.
Ooh.
And it is indeed the Burt Blyleven.
Ooh. Do it.
So congratulations, Aretha Franklin with You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman from 1967. Aretha's second inductee. Is that the way we say it? The second song Aretha's second song to be inducted into the Hall of Songs.
A Natural Woman gets 80% support. So overwhelmingly, that final push, people just decided, yeah, it belongs. And I thought it belonged from day one. I still think this is maybe the best Aretha Franklin song. All respect to respect. But I don't know. This is such a good song. It's so well written. Carole King, Jerry Goffin. No, is it just Carole King? It's just Carole King. So well written. Carole King, obviously, writing this one. Aretha performs it stunningly. It's a song about empowerment, but it's also about everlasting love, and it's about awakening. All of the things, all the feels, and it's just so good. I think it's a damn worthy inductee for the Hall of Songs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we were both pretty gung-ho about this way back in the 1967 episode, so it's been one. I don't remember if I voted for it in every one time that it's been on, but I'd have to go through and check. But it's definitely been one that I have voted for, I'd say most of the time since it's been on the ballot. So I'm excited, happy to see it get in. And Aretha is the first woman now with two songs inducted, joining quite the list of, I think she's the seventh artist now who has two inductees. Is that right?
I think she's the eighth artist
that's right.
With at least two. So we have Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, the Rolling Stones, the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, Sam Cooke, and Elvis Presley, all with two inductees. And with three, it's the Beatles. So I think that's a really, really good group of artists right there. And I think it is an extremely fitting look at the first 20 plus years of music and who is most represented and who was the most skilled and the best at their jobs. Does that list look good to you?
Yeah, I think that's right. Again, I think probably there's some people who don't have any that I might want to see maybe on that short list, somebody like Joni Mitchell. But other than that, I think that's a pretty good summary of where we are, what we've the people that we've talked about a lot.
Yeah, Joni Mitchell, definitely one of those. Just looking at the list real quick to see, James Brown has 3 nominees and not one has gotten in. The Who has 3 nominees and not one has gotten in. Hank Williams has 3 basically in the first year. I think that we did all songs the first 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And then the artist that has the most nominations without having one in, there are actually 2, and that's the Drifters and Ray Charles.
Yeah, Ray Charles was one I was going to say. It might have been that. I'm surprised he doesn't have any. And he was really close, right?
Oh, you know what?
He did have one. He had one. Yeah, he has one.
Yeah, Ray Charles. Yeah, let me go back. And the artist that has the most songs nominated without having an induction at this point, the Drifters, they have 5. Money Honey, There Goes My Baby, Save the Last Dance for Me, This Magic Moment, and Up on the Roof. I'm a little surprised, but I guess I'm not completely, because it's not like the Drifters are known to have one song that towers above the rest. Maybe Save the Last Dance for Me of all those, but it would have been nice to see them have one in.
Yeah, I'd agree with that on both counts, that it would have been nice, but it's also not shocking.
So, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman is the 43rd song to be inducted into the Hall of Songs. You can go to hallofsongs.com to check out the full list of 43. You can also go to Spotify and see the playlist, listen to the playlist, like the playlist of all 43 Hall of Songs inductees. Just search for Hall of Songs on Spotify. Chris, do we have any other songs in the Hall of Songs?
We do not.
Okay.
You know what, Tim? You can't always get what you want.
That's true. And that is the number 2 song on our results for the last election. The Rolling Stones, You Can't Always Get What You Want. 60% support. Second place behind Aretha Franklin. Not quite there. Before we get into the others, this was a Veterans Committee pick, and in its 4th round on the ballot. Do you think it'll get in, or do you think this might be its high watermark? 75 is going to be an interesting year.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get in because of what's going to show up after the 75 episode. But as we're going to talk about, the recent voting has really been surprising. So, I certainly could be wrong about that. Okay,
so the Rolling Stones at this point still have 2 songs in the Hall of Songs, and I believe they have about 8 nominees. I think that's correct.
I think that's right.
7. 7. They're third place overall for most nominated songs, with 7 behind Elvis and the Beatles. So we'll see if they get any more at any point here. They have quite a career still in front of us here, so we'll see. Chris, the next bunch of songs that are not going into the Hall of Songs, but get to stay on the ballot at least.
All right, a big chunk here. Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye. Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. They're still hanging around. Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers. Rocket Man by Elton John. And Superstition by Stevie Wonder. All with more than half, but not enough to make it in.
Let's Get It On, it looked like, was potentially going to make it in after this round, but it petered out toward the end. It is the song. There's always one in every election that does really well to start, and then it just starts to peter out toward the end. And so that finished in third place, and then you had a whole bunch of songs getting just above 50% there, as you said. I'm still surprised that Superstition is lower than it I thought it should have been in the Hall of Songs from day one, but people just aren't getting on top of it. Is it just because there's so many good songs there in that 71, 72, 73 area?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm surprised by that one and a little surprised by Rocket Man. I actually thought those 2 might have been the ones that were sort of the next ones on the list, even higher than the ones above them. But who knows?
All right, the next group of songs that are going to at least stay on the ballot but did not get enough support to be in the Hall of Songs. We have Jolene by Dolly Parton getting about 48% support. With 44% support, a bunch of songs here. Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. Lean on Me by Bill Withers. Midnight Train to Georgia by Gladys Knight and the Pips. And Freebird by Leonard Skinner. Anything there to talk about?
Lean on Me was one that I wouldn't have been surprised maybe to see a little bit higher. I was curious to see how Jolene would do. I still think that one will hang around for a while, but I don't see any of these getting in.
Yeah, Jolene got 61, 62% support last time out, the 19th election, so it was there toward the top. But this time out, again, just subject to being in this muddled mess of songs that are all very good. And so if one can jump out from the pack, it might get into the Hall of Songs. But as we talked about, that 75 list is going to come in, and that might push some songs down. We'll see what happens there. The final batch of songs, Chris, that are going to stay on the ballot at least.
Well, I think the big story is that the next 2 are Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon & Garfunkel and Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed, which means that the bottom 12 songs are the 12 songs from 1974, which is pretty amazing. I mean, it's really, you've got the every single song that was a carryover finished ahead of every single song that was new. The first three from 74 to not make it, the first three from 1974 that are going to stick around are Help Me by Joni Mitchell, Waterloo by ABBA, and then You're the First, the Last, My Everything by Barry White. So only 3 songs even sticking around on the ballot, and they make up the bottom 12. I was really surprised by that just because of the odds, but I don't know. We'll go through them here and see if there's any that we thought may have been expected to do better. I don't know.
Yeah, we can go through that bottom group and talk about them. I guess the top 3 songs from 74 feel about right to me. Maybe. Help Me, I'm a little surprised about. I don't know if that's the strongest song from 74. They're all good. That's why they're on the list. But Waterloo, I think that was maybe the top song from 74, in my opinion. And You're the First, Last, My Everything, I think was worthy of at least getting through to the next round. But yeah, this little support, just around 36%, just around 36% support, is wild. It's wild that these 74 songs just did not garner any support. But when you're talking about songs that everybody knows, like Jolene and Rocket Man and Ain't No Sunshine, Let's Get It On, Here Comes the Sun, Freebird, people know those songs more. And that might just be it. They are the ones that have been talked about more over the last 40-odd years, 50-odd years. And so they're the ones that are going to at least stick on the ballot. I don't know. I'm a little surprised for sure.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think Waterloo probably would have been, I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite, but it's the one I would have expected to see highest on the list. And I'm surprised it wasn't much, much higher. But why don't we go through a bunch of the other ones and see what we think?
Yeah, so the bunch of the other ones, these are the ones that are not going to make it into the next round of voting. They have been eliminated from the Hall of Songs ballot. They will not be in the 21st election, and all 9 of them are from 1974. Unbelievable. They are, starting with close to 35%, but not quite, Ricky Don't Lose That Number by Steely Dan, Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin, and then you have below that Autobahn by Kraftwerk, September Girls by Big Star. And I'll stop it there. Those 4 songs got anywhere between 15% and 33%. So not quite. Cats in the Cradle, I thought maybe would have gotten through. Ricky Don't Lose That Number, I thought would have gotten through because they're both a little bit more popular than the others. But nope. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of thought that there was a chance that our listenership may skew towards Steely Dan listeners, and that might have been more popular than maybe in the general public. But yeah, no, I'm not. I think with something like Autobahn that they maybe our criteria when we're picking the songs for the nominee list is a little different than when people are voting, which is you might listen and be like, aha, you're right. That is a really great influential song. It definitely set the tone for a lot of things that were going to be made over the next 50 years. But I don't necessarily want to sit down and listen to 22 and a half minutes. So, I'd rather vote for something like Rocket Man. That's fair. That certainly is one approach. And I think that probably was particularly the case in 74, where we had a really diverse group and a lot of them were there because of their influence. Like, as you said, things like Cats in the Cradle, Ricky Don't Lose That Number are pretty popular, but some of the other ones we're going to talk about probably were more on the list because they were, influential because there was some inspiration there and less because they were, burning up the charts.
Yeah, it makes me feel a little sad because we've seen so many influential songs come into the ballot and then completely get just annihilated in the ballot and maybe finish dead last because nobody's supporting a very influential song. And I wish a song like Autobahn had more of a life because it is well deserved. It's a great song without the influence, but with the influence, it is something else entirely. And it, as you said, set the tone for music for the next 50 years. So it's hard to see it not make it any further. I wish the voters were considering it a little bit more. But I also understand that when you look at Autobahn next to Won't Get Fooled Again or Let's Get It On or Ain't No Sunshine, you're going to pick the ones that you've heard a million times and you know them and you love them, and that's it. So that's what we're up against here. All right. Let's go into the final bunch of songs, Chris.
Sure. At the bottom, we had Rock Your Baby, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, Return of the Grievous Angel, You Haven't Done Nothing, and Fire down at the bottom. Not really surprised by any of those, although I could have seen You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, Bachman Turner Overdrive being a little bit higher.
Yeah, the BTO thought maybe would have been a little bit more popular for sure. So didn't happen there. And Rock Your Baby, it was a number one hit, but it was also a number one hit that feels like it's both a timeless song in that it really did set the tone for a lot of music going forward, but it does sound a little bit like it's stuck in 1974, at least with that canned production. So I understand how people might completely have lost that song in time and it doesn't get the kind of support that a Freebird gets or what have you. But, man, that's a good song. And rediscovering it for this last episode was a joy, but we're not going to have it. So there you go. And I'm with you on the rest. Nothing really surprises me out of that group. I mean, Fire was maybe my favorite song from 74 and didn't quite get any higher. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, no huge individual surprises, but like I said, just the odds of the 74 songs all being at the bottom, only 3 of them coming back, whereas I definitely didn't see that coming.
All right, so that takes us into our 21st election. The songs that will carry on into the 21st selection are You Can't Always Get What You Want by the Rolling Stones, Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye, Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers, Rocket Man, Elton John, Superstition, Stevie Wonder, Jolene, Dolly Parton, Won't Get Fooled Again, The Who, Lean On Me, Bill Withers, Midnight Train to Georgia, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Freebird, Leonard Skinner, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Simon and Garfunkel, Walk on the Wild Side, Lou Reed, Help Me by Joni Mitchell, and Waterloo by ABBA, and You're the First, the Last, My Everything by Barry White. So all of those songs are going to carry over. What is that, 16 songs total that are carrying over?
17, yeah.
Is it 17 or 16?
16, you're right, yep.
16. So 16 songs are carrying over. We're going to have 12 nominees from 1975, and our last episode was our Veterans Committee episode from 71 to 74. 4 songs from that era carry into the ballot as well. So there will be 32 songs on the next ballot. It'll be our largest ballot since our very first ballot, which included a whole bunch of songs from the 50s. And that one ended with a lot of songs getting very little support to no support. Are you worried that a lot of songs here are not going to get any support whatsoever?
It's definitely possible. We'll see. I bet some of these that have been lingering around for a while will drop off. Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what the reaction is to the 75 songs. I think there's some big songs that are going to get some support, but we certainly could be wrong about that.
Well, we'll see what happens, and you have the power to influence and win friends, of course. So go to hallofsongs.com. When our new episode drops. Our 1975 episode will drop on January 30th. At that point, you can go to the website and make your picks in our ballot. You have up to 10 choices to make. Try to make all 10 if you can. It's really nice to vote as many as you can in. And we will then tabulate the votes after 1 week and come back to you, February 7th, I believe? Well, that's not true. February 12th, I believe, with a new recap episode. Is that right? Is that a Friday?
I think it's the 13th, isn't it? Is it Friday the 13th this year?
Ooh, that might be true. It's Friday the 11th. Friday
we're both way off. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So February 11th is when you're going to find out what songs get in the Hall of Songs, if any, from the last election, which will be our 21st. Again, 32 songs on the ballot. Good luck. It's going to be an interesting ballot for sure. It's going to be hard to make those picks. I'll tell you, this will be really hard to figure out. So we all have to do our homework here. And your homework is listening to Hall of Songs. Just go back and listen to some of those old episodes and then listen to our 1975 episode to get caught up on everything. All right. I guess that's it for this episode. We have one song. And again, congratulations to You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman by Aretha Franklin. Chris, let's thank some people.
Sure. We got to thank Stock Music Media for our theme song. We're now right in the heart of the 1970s. They got a great 1970s theme song. And then to Aaron Delashmut for our logo design work and our guitar pick plaques that he designs that pop up on our website. You can find his stuff at Piper Down Productions on Redbubble.
Yeah, and go get your Hall of Songs coffee mug or Hall of Songs mouse pad or Hall of Songs mattress mattress cover or whatever it is, duvet cover. Have fun with that. Just do what you will. All right. Again, our next episode will be our 1975 episode. It'll drop on January 30th. A lot of good songs in that one. A lot of good talk, I am certain. Until then, this is Hall of Songs. I'm Tim.
I'm Chris.
Prove me wrong.